Welcome to the ABCs of Preschool, the show that covers all things from parenting to childcare. And we're going to get real about how not just to survive, but thrive in the early years. I'm your host, Miss Amber. I'm a mom of 5 and early childhood expert with over 25 years in the industry. Whether you're a parent, an educator, or just curious about early childhood education, this podcast is for you. Each week, we're going to dive into what life looks like raising little ones, with special guests, industry experts, and personal stories that will leave you inspired and empowered. Get ready to explore, imagine, and discover the beautifully messy that comes with these magical years. Buckle up, because thriving during the early years is a wild and rewarding ride. Welcome to the ABCs of Preschool with Miss Amber, the founder of the lovingstartway.com and the author of the new book, The ABCs of Preschool. Today, I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this for a while, but today I'm 8 days post-op from, I think this was my 4th surgery since my cancer diagnosis at 31. I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 31 years old, and my kids were little. I was in the thick of parenting. I was in the thick of mothering. My youngest was 3 and my oldest was 9, I believe 3rd grade, 8 or 9. So I had 4 kids, 3rd grade and under. I was running, I think I had 2 preschools going at the time, maybe 1, running a school. I was volunteering. I was always the mom that was volunteering for everything. I did field trips. I was on the auction committee at the kids' elementary school. So yeah, I was actually on the auction committee at that time. I was the logistics girl. So I was married, raising 4 kids, writing actually, which is I cannot wait to share that story. I was in the middle of writing this manuscript about a mom who had to tell her 4 kids she had a terminal illness and was prepping them for her passing. Crazy, insane, isn't it? I had started that book in 2007, and who would have ever thought that in 2009, on a really beautiful spring day, I remember it very vividly. It was March 11th. 2009, the day before I had a biopsy. And on this afternoon, I picked up all the kids. I only worked 8:30 to 3. So I always dropped off the kids in the morning and I'd pick them up in the afternoon. And I remember it, the screen doors were open, the windows were open. It was a really beautiful spring afternoon in California. And we had 3 acres. The kids were in the backyard playing. I could hear them. I could smell springtime. And my phone rang, and it was the doctor I had seen the day before. And I remember him saying clearly, "I'm so sorry to tell you this, but your biopsy actually came back and you have cancer." It's a surreal moment. And I'll back up a little bit. On my 30th birthday, I remember going in for a massage. I remember, you're on your stomach. And I remember after that massage, I was having a massage with a friend, and I had a big party that night, for my 30th birthday. And I remember my breast just freaking hurting, and I thought it was weird. And I remember getting off the table and telling my friend, "Is it normal? Did that hurt your breast?" Your boob. I say boob. And that was the first time I noticed something. I was 30. And as parents, as moms, and especially as parents of raising little ones, our lives, especially if you're married, you're married, you're parenting, if you're working, you're juggling work, you're juggling the house. I think as women, especially, we take on so much, and that's just our role. We work, but we also have the home to take care of. if you have children, we also have like their lunches and the laundry and the scheduling of the meal planning and the prepping for that and volunteering and just juggling it all. And so I was thick in juggling all of it, juggling employees, juggling payroll. I was on this committee for the school auction. Life was happening and it was full steam. And so when I was 30 on my birthday, that was January 7th, is when I first felt something, and I just felt like pain in my right breast. But we get so busy that we tend, and I'm going to encourage you not to do this and hear me out, but as parents, as women, we tend to put ourselves on the back burner and we put everybody else ahead of us. It's like in our nature, but that can be problematic sometimes. So that was January. Come October, I'm kind of like in the mix of parenting and not really thinking, especially at 30 years old, like I don't think it crossed my mind yet that this could be something bad. But I remember in October, I was reading a book to my daughter. I think actually all the kids were on the couch. I was reading a book and my hand like kind of like brushed against my breast and I felt lump number 2. And I was like, oh, okay, there's something here. Like I can actually feel it now. Like I felt like 2 different lumps going on. And that started the prompting of going to doctors. And even though I was so busy with everything else in my life, I started really thinking about like, well, I better kind of handle this, because also my intuition was telling me that this something was not right. Like I just started to feel it like in my gut, in my soul, like something wasn't right. So October, I started going to doctors. I believe I went to like 3 different doctors, all telling me like, do you have a history of breast cancer? No. You're only 30, like that you're fine. And like young women, your breasts, when you're younger, having babies. And like I had my last son I was 27 and I nursed, my last time I was nursing was, he at 27. And then we adopted my daughter when I was 29. So it'd been a few years since I stopped nursing, but it felt like originally the pain when I was on my birthday felt like mastitis, like a breast infection. Like it's like how it started feeling like with like my seatbelt, like it would just hurt. Like it was constantly kind of hurting. And then I felt the 2 different lumps. So I started seeing doctors at like the breast clinics and you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. I finally went into one doctor who actually could feel the lumps. And I think it was fast forward. So it was now January. I think I went in January and actually a female doctor felt it and scheduled an ultrasound. And so I had started doing research late at night. Well, I was just really feeling like, I think this might be breast cancer. And thankfully, I had found this, I think it was called Young Survival Group, Young Survival Group, something like that. It was basically young women with breast cancer, like a support group. So I would put all my kids down to bed. And then at night, I was just on the internet, like reading, and trying to like soak up as much knowledge as I could. For me, I have found that I need info. I need information and I need a lot of it. I know a lot of people joke about Google and like, oh, don't Google things. Don't be Dr. Google. But for me in my health journey, it's been so valuable that I actually say more knowledge is freaking more power. So I was soaking up so much knowledge. Like I was learning that like young women's breasts are really thick. And so they can have cysts in them. And it's hard to see tumors sometimes. Like a biopsy was like the sure way of knowing. Like I just started gaining all this knowledge. So I went into my ultrasound and I remember the night before like freaking out. I remember I couldn't sleep and I was like sobbing all night, like hysterical. Like I just had a feeling like that next day they were going to tell me, yes, you've got cancer. Like these are tumors. And I remember going into my ultrasound and I was so dismissed. it was this lady that came in and she acted like I was like wasting her freaking time. And she was doing the ultrasounding image and I kept saying, oh, there's one here and one down here. I was trying to point to her to get the area. And she just was so like I said, I felt like I was wasting her time almost. So she was done really quick. And then she's like, I'll be right back. And then she left. And then she came in maybe like 10 minutes later. She's like, you're fine. Go home. Maybe if you want to check up in a year, but you're good. There's nothing there. You're fine. Go. Like you're good. And I remember kind of being stunned a little bit, but like, wow, okay. Like a little bit hopeful, like, okay, I must be like going crazy or something. But that nagging feeling never went away. Like I still felt this nagging sense of something's wrong. And I truly believe that just from all the things I've been through, I feel like that intuition that we have, all of us have it. I feel like it's like our compass and it's our guide. And I think it could help us. But I think so many times we're so busy in life doing so many other things that we don't stop enough to be still and to be quiet to actually listen to our gut, to that intuition. I almost wonder if it's like, I think we have souls. And I mean, I don't know anything for sure. I mean, I've never died and I don't know anything, but I do think that we have a soul. And I think that our intuition is our compass, it's our guide. And if we can be quiet enough and still enough to listen, it can really help guide us through things in life. And it was going off like my intuition and my gut, even though that ultrasound said it was negative and that lady was like, you're fine, like go, like there's nothing there. It didn't sit well with me. And thank goodness. And so a few weeks went on and I made another appointment to the breast clinic and I went in again because I just had all this more knowledge and I really knew I needed a biopsy. Like I needed a biopsy or a mammogram or something. So I needed more imaging. So I went back into the breast clinic and that was in March. It was March 10th. It was a Tuesday. I remember this. It was a Tuesday. And I went in and it was a man and I had the same conversation. I've got 2 lumps. He checked my history. He saw that the ultrasound was negative. He was like, what do you think? You got cancer or something? And I remember saying, yeah, I think I might. And he went over my history. And again, no family history of breast cancer. I said, I need a mammogram. I need more imaging. I just feel like I need more testing. And he's like, you can't have a mammogram. You're not 35. And I was like, okay. He's like, well, I can give you a biopsy if you want a biopsy. I can do that right now. And I was like, yes. I didn't even think about it. Yes. I said, I need a biopsy. Yes. And I said, where do I sign? And so he goes out, sends in the nurse. They prep me for a biopsy. And I'm like, here it is. Finally, like, I know that I'm going to know for sure. And as he's doing the biopsy, I remember him saying like, oh, you'll hear back in like 4 to 5 days, but this probably nothing. If most likely it's not cancer, you're too young. Like it was again kind of dismissing me. But I remember leaving the office just with this weight off of me because I knew that finally, like I'm going to have an answer. And sure enough, the next day, back to that beautiful spring afternoon, I can hear my kids playing in the backyard. I got that phone call from that same guy doctor saying, yes, it's cancer. And you're going to need a mammogram. You're going to need to see a surgeon, plastic surgeon, and you're going to need more testing. And I remember my hand started to shake, but I was shocked, but I wasn't. It was a weird moment. And because I had so much knowledge and I had been listening and reading so many other women's stories, I just felt almost a little bit powerful because I had a lot of knowledge. And so I knew the things he was rattling off. I started taking notes, but I from my research, I knew like these were the steps, the next steps. And it was crazy. And that began my journey through of being diagnosed at 31 with breast cancer and being a mom of really young kids. And I went into cancer land is what I like to call it. And you never think it's going to be you. I mean, I had no family history, but I think that's the gift of life is that if we can grasp possibly our demise and our death now. Like all of us will pass away one day. Like this is so temporary. Our lives are temporary. We do not know what's coming around the corner. We don't know if the next phone call is going to be a really hard phone call to hear. So life is precious. And as moms, as parents, as raising little ones in the early years, as business owners, we are all juggling so much and on that hamster wheel, I like to call it, that sometimes we can ignore the very thing that we should never be ignoring is like our health and our well-being. To be the best parent, we have to take care of ourselves. And that's mentally, physically, spiritually, like all of it. To be the best version of ourselves so we can serve and help other people. So it really took me out of the busyness. And I think a lot of my busyness was also coping mechanisms that I'll talk about. And I had to step back from all of it. And I was always the parent or the person giving. But I was now going to be on the receiving end of it. Going into cancer land, things move super fast. Like everything moves fast. I was teaching at my school. I was, being mom, carpooling to sports, like after schools would just be carpooling, driving. Everything kind of froze and stopped. And then I entered what I usually call is the waiting room, or a cancer term called the waiting room. And it's that limbo period. You don't know, like, is my cancer just here? Is it all over my body? Like, am I going to die? Like, am I really going to die? And for me, I was thinking, holy crap. I literally started writing this manuscript about a mom having to say goodbye to her 4 kids. And in 2007, I specifically didn't want to write about breast cancer. It's crazy. Let me share that part of the story. In 2007, I had always wanted to be a writer, and I always was like wanting to write a book. But in 2007, I remember specifically, and looking back, I think I already had cancer. I was in the bath one night because I was sick like every night. I had like the chills. Like I would get the chills so bad that the only thing to stop it would be to have this steaming hot bath. So every night I would get in the bath and like try to warm up. And one night this whole story plot like flashed before my eyes. I am not kidding. It's like a movie, like flashing super fast. And I can see this story plot of this mom. She has a terminal illness. She has to say goodbye to her kids. And then she makes it to the other side and she's given this choice. And it was crazy. And I remember standing up from the bathtub. I'm literally like soaking wet, but I'm running down the hallway to my then husband, but trying to be quiet because the kids were sleeping. But I was like, I've got it. I've got my story. And then I started writing it. And fast forward from 2007, and now it's 2009. I specifically didn't want to write about breast cancer then because I felt like the pink ribbon was overrated because I kept seeing the pink ribbon on cookie cutters and pan sheets. And I don't know, it just was like, it seemed commercialized when cancer is cancer on the broad scope. And we should be finding a freaking cure for cancer. But here I am now, 2009, and I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. Go figure. And my journey basically was I went in for a lumpectomy, and coming out of that, I felt like they basically have photos. It looks like half my breast is cut off. It's like super lopsided. They didn't get all the cancer at that time. So I had to it's easier said than done. Like I was just saying, I'm just going to get them cut off, like just cut them off. But when it comes down to it, there was a lot of grief with cutting my breasts off. I feel very grateful and very thankful that I ended up having kids really young. So I had the gift of breastfeeding. I got to breastfeed, and I felt like, well, my breasts did their job. At least I had the gift and the honor of being able to breastfeed. But I actually threw my girls a going away party, which was a beautiful thing. Everybody wore pink. We had pink booby cupcake. I don't know. It was just an all out like honor. We had like a henna artist tattoo. I had my cancer, my right breast henna. like a henna design. And it was a really beautiful night with like 40 women, very empowering. And it was like a goodbye party to my breasts. And so it was way harder than I imagined. And the surgery was really rough, but I had a bilateral mastectomy. And I remember that surgery was a little rough. And I think a week after I had that surgery, my daughter, I remember her coming home. She was at her cousin's house. The family, I will say my community I lived in and my family, the amount of support was tremendous because the script was flipped. I was on the receiving end, and it's really hard to accept help when you're always the one giving it. But it was a humbling experience. And I feel so grateful for everybody in my life at that time who rallied not only around me, but my family and my kids. People were picking up the slack of getting my kids to their sports and to school. Listen, I had meal deliveries for 10 weeks. It touched my heart of the human spirit. Human spirit is amazing. And as humans, we are amazing to each other when we can be and we want to be. And a week after my mastectomy, I have like drains coming out of me. I hear my daughter coming in the house and I knew something was wrong. Like I could hear it. And my ex-husband brought her in and he's like, I think she might have broke her leg. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. So we called the advice nurse. They told us it was really late at night. So we put her to bed. The doctor said, just give her some Motrin, put her to bed. And we took her first thing in the morning. And sure enough, she was on a trampoline the day before. And so she was put into a cast all the way up to her hip. She was just potty trained. So not only was I in bed and can barely walk, my daughter, who's 3, my little baby, had a broken leg. I have 2 amazing aunts that came to help. They took turns. Thank you to my amazing aunts. They took turns taking care of me. And oh my gosh, she had to be lifted to get to the potty. It was a crazy hard time. And then she was healing. And then I started going through, they were going to do reconstruction. So I ended up doing reconstruction surgery in November of 2009. And literally 8 days ago, I just had my implant exchange surgery. I'm like, it's fresh. And I've got my little sports bra thing on. So I just got had my implants replaced in exchange. So I think that's why I'm talking about this right now, because I am so thankful that I am still here, that I listened to my intuition and my gut, and I pursued it to know for 100% sure, like it was cancer or not, like with that biopsy, because if I didn't slow down and if I ignored my intuition, I truly think I would not be here today. My medical team at that time, when I was going through my cancer treatment, sucked. They did a really poor job and missed really crucial things in my cancer diagnosis. So at 31, I didn't go through radiation and I did not go through chemo, which I should have. But I'm thankful for my doctors that I have today, who 4 years after my diagnosis, I just always had this gut feeling too, like they did not correctly diagnose me. And 4 years later, I did have my pathology redone by a university hospital. And sure enough, I was supposed to have all of these drugs. But my amazing oncologist that I have today, is my 5-year anniversary. And she's like, our goal is always to get you to 5 years. And she's like, you're here. And I am so thankful that I'm here. And it is a gift. And I remember being in a lot of the chat rooms and just going through this journey. And a lot of those women are not here today. Sorry. And there's always this piece of maybe survivor's guilt, like, why did I make it and they did not? And that's the thing about life. Like, it's not because one's a better person or more good or more bad. It's just life happens. So I'm super grateful. And this coming March is going to be 15 years cancer free. And what a gift. It's caused a lot of health issues that I didn't see moving forward from cancer. I had a full hysterectomy, I think 8 years ago, December, in a few weeks. And they removed everything as just preventative because I had cancer so young, which entails has created a lot more of health issues that I had no idea. But overall, I am so blessed to be here and strong and healthy and healing, yes, from another surgery, but here. And here to watch these 4 human beings who I was in the midst of life at that cancer diagnosis. And here I am 15 years later doing extraordinary. And I remember at my 5-year cancer anniversary, my oncologist looking at me and saying, "Congratulations, you've made it 5 years. Go live your life. Like, you have this whole beautiful life ahead." And I remember that was one of my turning points in life, was one of the moments I began to really change my life. Now looking back, a positive way, but then it was going to get really hard. But that's just a part of my cancer journey. My kids, it's really funny. It's like most of my kids don't even remember that time. Actually, I don't think any of them do. It's really hard to juggle all of that and be mom. I remember having to hide myself in the bathroom or my closet and just bawling my eyes out when I was in the waiting room period. And the waiting room is really when you don't know exactly where has the cancer spread. Is it just in one location? It's the testing period, which is super high anxiety. If you have been through cancer, it's just a really high anxiety time because there's not a plan set yet because you don't know the extent of it. And Cancerland was crazy because I was at the doctor a lot. And it's like, how do you talk to your kids about it? And I tried to be really open with them. And one of my sons really went backwards during that time. I would be on the phone telling friends like, yeah, they're just going to chop them off. And I remember those words created a lot of fear for my then kindergartner. And he went backwards in a lot of things. So it's trauma. It was not just my trauma and my heart, as much as I was trying to contain it all with just within me. Things like that can't be contained, and they slip and they fall into the family life too. And there's fear, there's anxiety, there's uncertainty. There's like how much to say to your little ones and how much not to say. There's a balancing act of being strong mommy for your kids and putting on that brave face. But honestly, I'm so glad I had them during that time because it really forced me to be strong and to really be present with them as much as I could, because these early years, be present, enjoy it. They're hard, but they go so fast. And with anything in this, I guess what I wanted to get out of this sharing my little bit of my breast cancer journey is, as parents, as moms, we want to play superhero. To everybody, I know I struggled with perfectionism. Like, I want to be that perfect mom. I never really did well with Pinterest. Wasn't totally around. Maybe it was around. Yeah. When my kids it was around, but I always wanted to be the Pinterest mom with the really cute Christmas desserts at the parties and like all these fun things I never ended up being. But being present is everything. And taking care of yourself means you can show up better for your kids. I remember I had the drains on. I think it was 2 weeks past surgery, and it was Mother's Day. There was a Mother's Day tea, and one of my sons was in second grade. I was in so much pain, but there was no way in hell I was going to miss this tea. And I remember begging my aunt, I'm like, you're taking me. And I had like 4 drains coming out of me, and I had them like push pinned in. And there was no way I was going to miss this Mother's Day event and have my son there without me. And I waddled into that classroom. I was like dripping with sweat, but I was there. And even in our hard, we can be there for our kids and for our little ones, but ask for help. I had a community rally around me, and I will be forever grateful. I want to encourage you to listen to your intuition. Our children need us to listen to our intuition, right? Because our intuition could also spot off danger or really bad situations. Listen to your intuition when choosing a school or choosing a doctor. Like our gut, I think an intuition works. If I didn't pause to listen and actually make it a priority to keep going to doctors and to keep fighting for my health and to get that biopsy, I honestly don't think I'd be here. I really don't. So that's a little bit of my breast cancer journey. And I just want to encourage you guys as parents and being in the trenches of the early years and all the things that encompass those years, and carpooling and sports and daycare and work and family life and married life. Pause sometimes and take a measurement of how you're doing. How is your stress? How is your health? How is your sleep? Because looking back, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know for sure. Looking back, I was under so much stress and constantly in a fight or flight mode, in a eggshell kind of home life environment, that I think my immune system was so low. And possibly, I don't know for sure, possibly that's why maybe I got breast cancer at 31. It was my wake-up call to look around, to check my life, and to see what was working and what was not. And a lot was not working at that time. But I'm here and I'm grateful for that journey, because before cancer, Amber was very goal-oriented, and like I was busy a lot and volunteered a lot and had these big goals and dreams and would pursue them. But after cancer, that ticking clock of life got louder, and life is a gift. It truly is. Even in the really hard and messy, it's a gift. And I am so grateful that I am here and I'm alive and I'm healthy and strong. And I'm glad I've got an additional 15 years. And just, I hope you take the time to dive inwards a little bit and be present within yourself and listen to your intuition or your gut, because maybe you're off course or maybe you are on course. Wishing you guys a fabulous week. Beautiful souls. This is Miss Amber, with the author of the ABCs of Preschool and the founder of the Loving Start Way. Dream it, wish it, do it. Have a fabulous week. Thanks for listening to the ABCs of Preschool podcast. Please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Visit our website at thelovingstartway.com and follow me on Instagram at thelovingstartway. Thanks, and see you next time. Have a fabulous week.